On the business desk at this hour, we take a look ahead to the latest jobs figures expected in South Africa. That says joblessness is still expected to remain at record highs despite a recent 1.0% drop in the unemployment rate. The fourth quarter labour force survey to be released by StatsSA later today also comes at the height of load shedding, which has been escalating and harshly impacting the economy. The impact has caused concern over the risk to jobs in an already precarious economic climate. For more on this, we are joined by labour analyst Tony Healy. Tony, thank you so much for your time. And this time around, what should be the expectation when it comes to the jobless rate in the country?
Well, good morning. I think, unfortunately, the expectation should be what we've seen in the last 20 years or so, and that is that we see an unacceptably high unemployment rate. In the region of mid 30% if you use a conservative measure, but in reality we're close to having 1 in 2 South Africans unemployed at the moment, and there's no reason to expect those numbers to change much in the next day or two.
That's a scary picture, and even more so as a lived reality in this country. We've seen slight improvements in the overall unemployment rate. To what extent do they even make the slightest dent?
Well, that's right. You'll see a percentage difference. You'll see a 0.5% difference in the numbers, a reduction so-called. But in reality and on the ground, that really doesn't make much of a difference for the average economically active South African or job seeker. In fairness to government, they did inherit a high unemployment rate in 1994, north of 20%, but now you're looking at nearly double that in the space of the last 20-odd years, and there's been much talk about various what's a disaster. The load shedding is a disaster. Flooding is a disaster. In my book, the high unemployment rate has been a national disaster for the last 15 to 20 years.
Why is this so, Tony? Because often we have this conversation about the will for South Africa to turn the tide, especially in fostering an economy that is going to be self-sufficient and also generate growth, therefore creating the jobs that are required, or even capacitating South Africans with the required skills for a labour market that suits the academic level of the unemployed in the country.
Yeah, that's right. And you use the correct term there, growth. You grow your way out of an unemployment dilemma, and we just haven't been able to do that. Yes, you can blame the war in Ukraine, you can blame COVID, you can blame the floods last year, but that only goes so far. We're talking about a long runway of high unemployment of in excess of 20 years, nearly 30 years. And we keep moving in the wrong direction. So, I think the average employer would say, and the average investor would say, government has simply not created the environment within which South Africa is investable. And if it's not investable, and for example, you for 8 hours a day you don't have electricity, then why would you invest here? You go and invest next door or up the road. So, we need stimulus. We need ways of promoting and enabling growth, so the private sector especially and direct foreign investment can increase to create the numbers of jobs that we need.
Let's talk about load shedding and its impact on the economy, because it's likely to worsen the fourth quarter QLFS that's coming out later today, because major industries, the likes of mining and manufacturing, even retail, have explained that they are suffering, and job losses could be a possibility, if not an eventuality.
Yes, and they already are, and that shouldn't surprise us. If you're sitting without electricity for essentially a shift a day, where you are paying employees from the employer's perspective to do nothing because of the fact that you don't have the electricity that you need, then that's something that employers can't ignore. They need to do something about that. And unfortunately, that something is very often reducing your workforce because there's no guarantees regarding energy. And they also have to manage their costs. They can't pay out remuneration when they're not getting revenue for those 8 hours a day. So, and therein lies the dilemma. And that's just one of the serious negative consequences of load shedding.
Lastly, Tony, we saw that 1.0% drop in the previous data in this regard. Should we expect another marginal drop given the current dynamics?
I don't think so. I think there's two reasons for that. I think that the load shedding has worsened, number one. Number two, we've seen recently released statistics that recruitment activity has reduced by approximately 3% in the last 12 months. So there's really, and now of course we have the grey listing issue, which will affect business confidence. So I don't see a reason why it should reduce. But if it reduces, it's going to reduce, if you're lucky, by 1%. That's going to make absolutely no impact on the ground to job seekers.
Thank you so much for your insights, Labour analyst Tony Healy, as we build up to the expected jobs data from StatsSA later today.